Okay, we're here. It's Friday morning, or possibly a different time of the day when you're watching this, because I know most of the views come from a playback. Oh, I've my monitor turned up here. Okay, good morning. Welcome to Friday morning coffee and composing. Um, how you all doing? Are you good? How has your week been? So I had a really good week this week. I went to see the extended edition of The Return of the King, um, and I hadn't seen it in the cinema since it came out. And I was so blown away by it again that I wrote a little newsletter about it, which is linked in the chat. So click on that. It's not so much about the score itself as what the score kind of reminded me of, um, which is this kind of a loss of an emphasis on leitmotif as a compositional tool. Now it's very broad strokes. I mean, obviously there are still people writing leitmotifs and things like that, but I mean it in terms of like a big traditional orchestral Hollywood style thematic score. And I think that really the Lord of the Rings kind of marks the beginning of the end of well, not the end, but the kind of the fading out of it as a something that we're hearing a lot of, if that makes sense. So it really it's just a celebration of thematic music and thematic writing, and it is so good. Apparently, over 100 themes were written for it, and you can really like this the sound of the music is as much a character and world builder as the production design and the costumes and the performances and the scope and the way it was made. And it's a beautiful thing to have in the world. And it was great. I was a little bit apprehensive because the extended cut of The Return of the King is 4 hours and 23 minutes long. And I brought my 12-year-old daughter, and I was expecting, some pushback, but she loved it. And it because it was so engrossing from the start. I mean, really and truly, like four hours went by very quickly. So, yeah, it was great, and it was great to revisit that score in a cinema, with a kind of a fresh perspective on active listening. I found as a kind of a musician and a music lover in general, that I kind of tend to go through phases of different periods where different music kind of comes to the forefront. In your teenage years, you have kind of identity defining music and music that can explain kind of emotions and things like that. And then as I got a little bit older, learning how to play jazz and being totally immersed in that world, and film music, since learning about it and on a more kind of serious and professional level, I find now that I pay much more attention to music, and I'm actively listening to music a lot more when I sit down and watch films and TV now. So it was really nice to come down, sit in the cinema, and really actively listen to some of that score. And it, like, a particular highlight was the lighting of the beacons of Gondor. The music is just absolutely incredible. The use of choir, and in the Shelob's lair, which I always thought was Shelob when I was reading the books, but Shelob apparently. There's like ostinato string stuff, and it's just so good, so good. So yeah, rewatch Lord of the Rings Extended Edition with some headphones and check out how awesome that score is. The newsletter is kind of about are we due a return to kind of leitmotif based traditional style Hollywood orchestral scoring, and dare I say it, will it be made by humans or will it be made by AI? Who knows? That was another thing that cropped up this week. I watched Adam Neely's video on techno-capitalism, which is in equal parts insightful and depressing. His view on the outlook of AI is not so much about the AI itself, but more about the companies that are operating to so emphatically to promote and have everybody adopt AI in everything, and the motivations behind that, which is really, really interesting. He talked about a term that I had not heard before, called decel. So what a decel is kind of a mixture of the word like deceleration or a decelerationist, and incel, which is like involuntary celibacy, which is a whole world of thought in its own. But it's kind of this derogatory term that tech companies have for people who are who they're terming as decels, as decelerationist, not encouraging. They don't want AI to, or they don't want technology to come as quickly. They want to kind of regain or retain a kind of a slower movement on technology. I my initial thoughts on this, I don't want to get into too much because I'm conscious that I want to jump into the door. But my initial thoughts is this kind of American style binary thinking. You're either left or you're right. And the nuance and the centrist position, doesn't seem to be given any weight or proportion. And I think that this idea of D-cells and whatever, tech cells, kind of, it positions people in this binary choice of left and right and wrong, forward thinking or backward thinking. And I think there's, I really want to hear more nuanced conversations around AI adoption than you're either all encompassing or you're it's total doom for everybody. So let me know your balanced thoughts on AI. So on the flip side, we had like traditionalist leitmotif orchestral scoring stuff with Return of the King, and then we had techno-capitalism world, world demolishing ideals on the other. So quite a fun week, really. So why we're here today with Coffee and Compose, that's I'll talk about a little bit more of that on the Substack Live, which is linked also there too. That's at 11, just after this live stream. So if you want to hear more of me rambling about techno-capitalism and things like that, let me know. Anyway, why we're here today is we're talking about pitch tracks. So pitch track this is not technically a pitch track because this This is for a project that's coming up. But I'm kind of approaching it as I would a pitch track, which is I'm trying to get like a specific palette and some thematic ideas so I can give to a client and get some feedback. Is this the general mood and vibes that they're looking for? So it's without trying to give too much away about the project, it's an independent drama, quite intimate in scope. So the brief was like neoclassical / slightly Irish. So maybe think Max Richter meets, the Gloaming or something like that. With very, very broad strokes. So I've started with a couple of instruments just to give myself a kind of jumping off point. And I meant to name this one. It's uilleann pipes, which I hope I spelled that correctly. So I've got this kind of brittle strings, which is from excuse me. This is going to be one of those times where sample libraries don't work. This is Spitfire Audio's Albion Tundra, which is a sample library that was like really, they're really dynamically based. So they were kind of doing almost edge of silence kind of, and the result is this kind of really intimate kind of a sound. So I've kind of got a Pitts version and like a snap Pitts with some extra decay stuff. So that's what I'm looking for, is this kind of brittle, cold, almost isolated, intimate kind of a string sound. So there's a lot of verb on that. So you can hear in the decay, there's this almost like a wood sound from when it was recorded. Now you won't hear that unless you're listening in headphones. If you're listening to this on your phone, as usual, you probably won't hear half of the stuff that I'm doing, and I just sound like a crazy person. But feel free to jump on and leave a comment and say hello. And that goes for if you're watching this back later on and you're just hanging out, drop a comment and I'll see it and we'll talk about it again. So I have this kind of brittle string sound that I wanted almost like a solo violin, which I might pair this with a slightly posher string sound, maybe Abbey Road or something, just to give it a little bit of lift. And then I have these two pianos. So I have the Labs Philip Glass piano, which is free. I think both of these pianos were free, actually. And that sounds like this. And we'll see one battle after another. Does all that stuff. I really like this Philip Glass piano. I think it sounds really, really nice. And I also have this felt piano from, excuse me, from Piano Book. And it's for the full version of Contact. We talked about Contact last week. Piano Book is people who create their own sample libraries, and it has a whole list of loads of cool stuff. So I got this felt piano from whoever this is, John Mayer. Not that John Mayer, different John Mayer. But if you're not on Piano Book, check them out. They are the best reason in the world to get Contact, the full version of Contact. So this is a felted piano. So the strings and the mallets are kind of deadened. So you get this like really kind of soft. I'm not sure if you can even hear that. So it gives it this feeling that you're in a room together, and it's like an upright, you're in this kind of lonely room in Ireland, which is part of the theme as well. And then for colour and for a little bit of kind of, what do they call it? They call it thematic placement. This is where you use instruments that are kind of regional to give it a sense of location in your score. So I've picked another Piano Book sample library of uilleann pipes. Now these are a little bit extreme. Yeah, a little bit extreme and a little bit full on and a little bit, location, but they might have space as a kind of I'm looking for a kind of a hurdy-gurdy kind of a sound. And that's about it. I think I want this palette to be really minimal, really intimate sounding, and really you're kind of, I want the palette to be, in my head, kind of attainable. Like it's not, it's like it's placing the situation of the project in reality. Because it's quite austere, it's quite real, if that makes sense. So this is just some of the thoughts that you have when you're coming up with palettes and music in general. So with this, I want to kind of give an example of a few different types of mood. So maybe 15-20 seconds of something like really emotional, or something that shows all of the palette played together. Excuse me. I think coffee and composing is a tricky one, because it's hard to just talk a lot and drink coffee without having water. So I must bring water too. Okay, so I know this is going to be kind of a lower tempo kind of a vibe, isn't it? So also what I want in this is, I just played a little bit of one battle after another. I'm not looking for too much ambiguity in terms of harmony. So I'm going to try and keep the harmony quite diatonic, because it doesn't strike me as something that's going to need to be harmonically complex. So we're definitely thinking minor keys. I'm always drawn to A minor, the second saddest of all the keys. Some chords, seeing what I can figure out, what's gonna, what's likely to stick, what's likely to land. I just thinking about lines in the script, what kind of might work there. be a little. There might be a little bit too much movement in it. See what kind of tempo I'm working with. Okay, you don't. Well, I can't stop the metronome for you guys, so sorry, gotta listen to it. But yeah, let's take a little take. So. I'm just going to lay down this as a little rhythmic track. Where my click track go? Okay. Alright, something along those lines. I'm going to take that and I'll come along. Now let's try and stick it onto the felt piano as well. So this might be a nicer texture here. Slightly out of tune. And when you pair them together, it's got a little bit of ambient noise, like pedal sounds, things like that. And that gives us a nice little bed to lay down some extra things on it. So let's see, come up with some string lines here. And again, just kind of improvising here to see what kind of comes out. Some different techniques. Let's see what we can come up with here. obviously this is really high in the mix, so we want to kind of give it a little bit nicer space to live in. So this is something that I run into a lot when I am recording in using keyboard. You tend to approach the instrument from a keyboard point of view, and if anybody has any tips on how to come out of that, and this is something kind of mentioned in the newsletter as well, is it's one of the things that has changed our compositional style so much is MIDI programming through keyboards. So if I was singing on guitar, or if I was a string player, how would it just be like long sustained notes all the time, or what kind of melody would you do? And I'm quite visual when it comes to instruments in general. On guitar, I'll tend to use shapes. Now, obviously, it's a big combination between what your ears are doing and your audiation, which is what you're hearing in your mind, and then the tactile application of that through an instrument of some sort. So probably the truest reflection of what you're trying to compose would probably be if you're singing lines. That's like true audiation coming out. But like, I think part of the fun of playing an instrument and music making in general is, it's multi-sensorial. So yes, it's about your ears, but it can also be about the tactile nature of just hitting stuff and playing stuff. So yeah, that's my excuse for not coming up with a good string line right at this second. So, okay, that's a bit twee, isn't it? Ba-ba-da. I'll just move this in here. Once again, you have tuned into the most awesome composer secrets of messing around with MIDI, which I try not to do too much while you're watching anyway, because this one. Get a nice crunch maybe. Oops. Yeah, he says after he goes straight back into messing out MIDI. So again, just sketching here really, so. Yeah, okay. This is what I like to do sometimes. So I am liking the register of this. Maybe not so much the melody, but it's not as important as kind of textural palette. So since this is just really sketching, I'm going to see if I can find a place for this, which is tricky because it is such such a unique. Oh, there's a little grace note there. Might need to pitch this down maybe. Bring them into audio effects. Pitch. Sure, this is stereo. So pitch it down. Okay, this might not work. Right, let's throw it in, see how we go. Okay. Maybe we'll change it around to see. Now we have some key switches here as well, so. Sometimes I forget I'm actually on a live stream and I should be talking right now and telling you what I'm doing. So what I'm doing here is trying to figure out the key switches, which gives it a slightly different sample sound. I'm liking that grace note, but I'm not really wanting to use this as a harmonic instrument, more of a supportive instrument, and I was hoping to get some like nice low end. But it doesn't have a low E, so I've written it in a key that probably doesn't suit the uilleann pipes. I think I think there's only like 3 or 4 keys in uilleann pipes. I really don't know, so come at me in the comment section. Or do come at me in the comments. It would be nice to hear from you. So yeah, these drones are just not feeling like they're low enough. So we might just come in for the C, maybe. That'll be good. Didn't record there for some reason. Okay, might be a little on the handle with care side, but again, we're trying to just throw out ideas onto the palette. Yeah, I'm not hating it, but I'm not fully convinced either. So I'm liking that low end, so that's nice. But it's kind of taken the place for me of like a cello or something doing that, which I might come back to. But yeah, let me jump over here and do this thing and come back to life. So that's going to be it for another week. Wow. Hopefully you got something out of this. I think in between some of the seemingly aimless noodling that there might be some tips in there to follow. But this is roughly how my process goes. I tend to think of it like trying to tease out things. So I tend to throw a lot of stuff and then start to hear things and put it together in that way. That's kind of how my process works. That's how my brain tries to compute things. So I'm going to be going over to Substack and doing just more talky stuff there. And hopefully I won't make any kind of weird mistakes streaming wise like I did last week. But yeah, if you're knocking around, jump in the bottom link there. And if you want to know a little bit more about my thoughts on leitmotif things and things like that, jump on Substack. I also, this is something that I should start doing at the start of the live stream, and I never remember to do it. I also have a couple of Logic Pro templates, getting started with orchestral scoring and a sci-fi hybrid scoring template. They're both for sale on my website. There's links to those in the newsletter. Subscribe and like and comment and share this video. My YouTube subscriber count is at 292 and I'd really like to get it to 300. Yeah, I have no massive aspirations of large YouTube numbers, but every subscriber helps, and knowing that you're out there is really nice too. So yes, comment, like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. I don't even know what's the recommended advice anymore because I've stopped listening. Other than that, I will be back again next week. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see covered in this kind of live stream, let me know. I would love to hear from you. And other than that, be good. And I will see you next week for more Coffee and Composing.